Hello students, welcome back to online classes. In last video we discussed about the concentration of ores. So during concentration we have to grade and crush and we have to make the ore in a reasonable size. So then after, depending upon their physical properties, we have to choose the which method is better for the concentration of a ore. Like the concentration of ore is nothing but the removal of gangue material or else impurities in the ore. So that is called as the concentration of a ore or else a dressing or else a beneficiation. So in that concentration of ore we have mainly four types. One is the hydraulic washing, and second one is the magnetic separation, thirdly the fourth flotation process, and fourth one is leaching. So when the magnetic properties are different, we have to choosing the magnetic separation. If sulfide ores are present, then we have to move for the fourth flotation process, and if ore is able to soluble in some of the solvent, then we have to choose the leaching process. So this is about the concentration of ores. So this is the first step whenever we are going to extracting the metal or else we are going to isolating the metal. So after concentration, so here we are going to get the ore in the pure form. So in the fourth steps we are going to remove all the impurities or else gangue materials which is present in the ore. So now we have only the pure form of ore. So what next? The second method is the isolation of metal atom or else the extraction of metal from the ore. The first step is the concentration of ore, and second one is the isolation of metal or else the extraction of metal. Okay, so this is the second step. So that is called as the extraction of metal atom or isolation of metal, okay, from the ore. So this is the second step, isolation of metal from concentrated ore. So it should be done in first step, concentrated ore. So in this concentration, again it has two types. One is the conversion to oxide from metal. So we have to convert metal oxide here. So this is the first step, and second step is the reduction of oxide to metal. So reduction of oxide to metal. So means the extraction of metal will has two types. One is the conversion to oxide and another one is reduction of oxide to metal. Means here we are going to do the oxidation of metal and here we are going to do the reduction of metals. So in this way we are going to extracting the metal atom from the concentrated ore, and usually the sulfide ores are converted to oxide before reduction, because oxides are very easy to reduce. So that is why the sulfide ores are undergo oxides before reduction. Okay, the sulfides are undergo, sulfide ores are oxidized before they reduce, Okay, so you have to remember two steps here. So conversion to oxide and another one is reduction of oxide to metal. So if in that we should discuss about the first one, that is the conversion to oxide. And here again it has two methods. One is by calcination method and another one is the roasting method. So conversion to oxide should has two methods. One is calcination and another one is roasting. So in this first one is the So in calcination we have to doing heating, the heating of metals will be taken place, means heating of concentrated ore is taken place. During this heating, the volatile matter which is present in that ore, it should be escaped from it. So volatile matter is nothing but like water or also ethanol, whatever. The high volatile liquids which are present in ore or also high volatile matter, it should be escaped from the concentrated ore. So that is called as the calcination. So here we are going to remove all the volatile matters which are present in our given concentrated ore. So that is called as the calcination. It should be done by heating the concentrated ore. So that is why the calcination can be defined as it involves heating. It involves heating. Okay, it involves heating and it removes the volatile matter and it removes the volatile matter or escapes, removes or also escapes. So before, if it is volatile, so within a small temperature only it should undergo volatility. Okay, the volatile matter which escapes leaving behind the metal oxide, which escapes leaving behind the metal oxide. Okay, so it is called as the calcination. If you are using escapes in this sentence, then you can remove escapes here. Okay, it involves heating and it removes the volatile matter which escapes leaving behind the metal oxide. Then we are going to get the pure metal oxide after removal of the volatile matter. So for example, when the iron trioxide, if it is contains X moles of water, so after heating we will get only the Fe2O3 with the removal of X moles of water. So simply by heating this iron oxide, then we are going to get the metal oxide only after the removal of water. So this is the one example. And second one is the zinc carbonate. So after heating it, we are going to get the formation of zinc oxide with the liberation of carbon monoxide. Okay, so we will get the formation, zinc carbonate. Whenever it should be undergo heating, we are going to get the formation of zinc oxide with the liberation of carbon monoxide. So here carbon dioxide is the volatile matter. So by removing this carbon dioxide, we are going to get the zinc oxide. So simply by heating process, we are going to convert the given concentrated ore into metal oxide. So this is the calcination. Okay, so this is the first method of conversion to oxide. So calcination is simply involves heating of metal concentrated ores. So then it will give the metal oxides by escaping the volatile substances or also volatile impurities which are present in our ore. Okay, so this is the one method. So second one is the roasting. So roasting is also comes under conversion to oxide. Okay, so roasting is nothing but here also we are going to use to convert the concentrated ore into metal oxide, and it is also heated. So it is also the heating process only. The roasting is nothing but heating only, but in this roasting we are going to heat the concentrated ore by using furnace with the continuous supply of air. So we have to choose furnace. It must be contains the supplement of air should be continuous. So then it is said to be the roasting. So then we are going to get the formation of the metal oxide from the concentrated ore. So roasting is also involves the heating, but it should have the regular supply of air in a furnace at a temperature below the melting point of a metal. So below the melting point of a, so we can define roasting as the ore is heated the ore is heated with the regular supply of air at a temperature with the regular supply of air in a furnace at a temperature below the melting point of a metal. Below the melting point of a metal. So it is called as the roasting. So in case of calcination also we are going to do heating, but in roasting, so the regular supply of air and we have to choose the suitable furnace here. So in furnace we are going to do roasting, but in calcination simply by heating the concentrated ore, so we are going to get the formation of the corresponding metal oxides with the removal of some of the volatile gases and volatile material. But here we have to do the heating of concentrated ore in a furnace with the continuous supply of air. So then we have to maintain temperature below the melting point of the metal. So the example for this is the zinc sulfides, the lead sulfide and the carbon disulfide. So means the sulfide ores can be done by using roasting. So we can convert sulfide ores into oxides, their corresponding oxides, by using the roasting method. So here you have to convert zinc oxides, zinc sulfides, whenever it should continuously taking air, so then it is converted into the metal oxide. So that is the zinc oxide, ZnO, plus the liberation of what will take place, the sulfur dioxide. Okay, so sulfur dioxide, the heating is taking place with the continuous supply of air. So by taking that air to the concentrated ore will become the corresponding metal oxide. So that is zinc sulfide will be converted into zinc oxide with the liberation of the sulfur dioxide. So the second one is the lead sulfide, PbS. So here also taking oxygen, so then it will be converted into its lead oxide, that is PbO, with the liberation of sulfur dioxide. And if I taking the carbon sulfide, 2Cu2S with again 3O2, it will be converted into cuprous oxide. Okay, Cu2O with 2SO2. Here question will arises. So this carbon sulfide contains the impurity, so that is nothing but Fe2O3. So whenever we are choosing the carbon sulfide ore for the extraction of copper metal, so then it should contain the iron oxide as a impurity. So copper sulfide should contains impurity as a Fe2O3. So it is very difficult to remove that iron oxide because it should has high melting point. So as a result of that, it is not very easy to remove that iron oxide from the copper sulfide ore. So as a result of that, we have to choose another external chemical substance. So it is only occur in case of copper sulfide. So all iron compounds are having the high melting point. As a result of that, it is very difficult to remove from them the concentrated ore. Since whenever we are having the copper sulfide, so it should contains Fe2O3. So it is acting as a gangue. So impurity is nothing but the gangue. So for this gangue should has high melting point. So as a result of this, so whatever we maintain temperature, so if it is, for example, I will say if copper sulfide has more less melting point than that of this gangue material, then if we are increasing temperature to remove this, so it should undergo decomposition rather than that of removal of this gangue material. So to avoid that kind of situation, so for this gangue we are going to add some other material, chemical substances like SiO2. So this SiO2 in this situation it is said to be flux. Okay, so here impurity Fe2O3, it is present in Cu2S, that is copper sulfide. It has high melting point. It is very difficult to remove this gangue material from this copper sulfide. To maintain the purity of that concentrated ore, we are going to add the externally chemical substance, so that is called as the flux. So flux is the chemical substance, which is added externally, to remove or to convert gangue into slag. Here new term will comes, so that is called as a slag. So when gangue is mixed with flux, it will forms the new material, so that is called as the slag. So that slag should has the low melting point compared to that of this original gangue. So here gangue should has high melting point. When it combines with flux, it will form slag, so that slag should has low melting point. As a result of that, so it is very easy to remove that slag material. So in this way we are going to remove the Fe2O3, so in the Cu2S. So to the removal of that, we are going to add the chemical substance that is called as the flux. So it should form the ferric silicate. So this is called as the slag, and along with that the sulfur dioxide is also removed. So that is called as the slag. So this slag material should has the low melting point. It should has low melting point compared to that of this gangue material. So during this low melting point, it is very easy by maintaining low temperature. So we can remove this FeSiO3. So that is nothing but impurity. Okay. So the definition will be asked, what is flux, or define flux and define slag for 1 mark question. So that's why flux can be defined as the chemical substance which is added externally to convert gangue into slag. Okay, so that is called as the flux. So slag is the substance which is formed by the combination of gangue with flux, and it has low melting point. So it is called as the slag. And here the copper matte should contains the pure form, means we can now have the pure form of copper sulfide after the removal of Fe2O3, not 100% pure. So after the removal of Fe2O3, some minute impurities are present. Again we can go through the purification, then we will get the pure metal. So here the major impurity is Fe2O3. It can be converted into iron silicate, that is nothing but slag. In this way we are going to remove this copper sulfide ore. So in this roasting we can do the sulfide ores, and we can convert them into their corresponding metal oxides. So this is about the first step, that is conversion to oxides. So it involves calcination and another one is roasting. In calcination we are going to heat the concentrated ore, then it will eliminate the volatile matter. We are going to get the pure metal oxides. So in case of roasting, here also done of heating is taken place, but with continuous supply of air in furnace at a temperature below the melting point of a metal. So it should be converted into metal to metal oxide by two methods. One is calcination and another one is the roasting. So this is about the first step. Okay, so here we have to move for the next step, so that is the reduction of oxide to the metal. So this is very simple one, so don't make it complex. Simply you have to write the definition of all the methods. Okay, so what is flux, slag, gang, and what is meant by roasting, calcination, leaching. So you have to remember principles in the concentration of ore method. So and here we have to remember about the more concentrate towards the definitions, because these are asking for 1 mark. And second method is the reduction of oxide to the metal. Reduction of oxide to the metal. As the name suggests, here we are going to reduce the metal oxide into metal, means we want pure metal. So in the first step we are going to get the formation of zinc oxide, copper oxides and lead oxides. These are the oxides, but in this step we are going to reduce this oxide to their corresponding metal. So means we are going to reduce this oxide into zinc, copper oxide into copper, so lead oxide into lead. So in this way we have to getting the pure metals in this reduction of oxide to the metal. So it is usually involves heating of metal oxide with the reducing agent. Okay, so we can done this reduction of oxides to metal with by the heating process as well as by having the suitable reducing agent. So we have to choose the suitable reducing agent like carbon and carbon monoxide. So carbon and carbon monoxides are acting as a reducing agents here. Okay, you have to remember both these, carbon and carbon monoxides are acting as a reducing agent to convert metal oxide into metal. Okay, so if I write the general reaction, so that is MXOI. So this is the metal oxide. So these are the numbers of metal and number of oxygen atom. If it is undergo reduction in presence of any reducing agent, if I taken C as a reducing agent, then it will form pure metal with the liberation of Y moles of CO. So that is the carbon monoxide is removed. So now question will arise as either we have to choose carbon or else carbon monoxide. For which kind of reactions we have to take carbon as a reducing agent, and for which kind of reactions we have to take carbon monoxide as a reducing agent, because I told carbon and carbon monoxides are also both are acting as a reducing agent. So why we have to take carbon only? So why can't we write carbon monoxide here? So these questions will arise. So it can be solved by the thermodynamic physical equation, means the thermodynamic properties. So in this reduction process we have to choose the suitable reducing agent by considering the thermodynamic properties. Okay, thermodynamic properties or thermodynamic principles of, it is said as principles of metallurgy, means here we are doing the extraction of metal by two methods. One is conversion of concentrated ore into metal oxide, and second one is reduction of oxide into the metal. Okay, so during reduction we have to choosing reducing agents on the basis of thermodynamic principles. So this whole process, the extraction and concentration of metals, is considered as metallurgy. So that's why the name is the thermodynamic principles of metallurgy. Okay, so the first thermodynamic equation, so whenever we are considering any reaction we are writing in the form of a Gibbs free energy. So that is nothing but delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. So this is the thermodynamic equation. So based on this equation we are now deciding which reducing agent is feasible or else suitable for the reaction process. So where delta G is the Gibbs free energy, delta H is the change in enthalpy, T delta S is T is temperature, delta S is the change in entropy. So this is change in enthalpy and this is change in entropy and this is the temperature. So this equation suggests that the delta S is positive on increasing the temperature. The value of T delta S is also increases. So that is why the delta H is more than that of the T delta S. So whenever the increasing temperature, the value of, if we are increasing temperature, okay, this value will become more and more positive. As a result, this will become less since delta H is less than that of the T delta S. But when the value of delta G, when the value of delta G will become negative, then the reaction or else a process will become spontaneous. Okay, when the value of reaction means the value of delta G become more and more negative, then the equation will become spontaneous. So when the equation becomes spontaneous, so then it is said to be feasible one. So by having this technique, we have to choose the reducing agents depending upon the delta G value. So when delta H is less than that of T delta S, means upon increasing temperature, T delta S will be goes on increases, and we can have delta H is less than that of the T delta S. And whenever we are doing the coupled reactions like oxidation and reduction, again the delta G value will become negative. So that is why when the value of delta G will become negative, then we can say that reaction is spontaneous. If the reaction is spontaneous, we can say it is a feasible reaction. So for the spontaneous reactions, we are going to choose the corresponding reaction methods. So if we are using carbon as a reducing agent, if it is giving delta G is a negative value, then it is said to be the spontaneous reaction. So it is appropriate to use the carbon. So that means, so whenever we are converting metal oxide to metal, if we are using carbon as a reducing agent, so this carbon will give negative free energy, gives free energy. If it is gives negative, gives free energy, then it is considered to use as a reducing agent. If it is not give negative value, more and more negative value we require. Okay, if it is not giving the negative value, then it is said to be non-spontaneous. Okay, then it is not feasible to use it as a reducing agent. For that metal oxide, we have to choose another reducing agent like carbon monoxide. If carbon monoxide will give negative value, then it is considered to be the suitable reducing agent. So in this way, by considering the negative value of Gibbs free energy, we have to choosing the reducing agent for the conversion of metal oxides into metal. Okay, we want pure metal, so that is why we are doing reduction here. So the reduction is carried out in presence of a reducing agent. So simple manner I am telling. So first is in this, don't confuse or don't mess with all these principles and reducing agent. So we are doing reduction because of conversion of metal oxide into metal. So simply we are not able to convert metal oxide to metal. So we require some external agent. So that is nothing but in presence of reducing agent only we can convert metal oxide into metal. So those reducing agents are carbon and carbon monoxide. So here question arises, which one is better one, or else which one is suitable for our metal oxide. So that is why for the ability of that confusion, we have to go for this equation. Okay, if we are using carbon as a reducing agent, if it is gives delta G value as a negative, then it is taken as a reducing agent because it is spontaneous reaction. If the carbon is not giving as the negative values, then it is not used as the reducing agent. Again, if you are taking carbon monoxide, if it is gives higher negative value, if both carbon and carbon monoxide, if both are giving the Gibbs free energy in negative quotient, like simply I am giving digits. If carbon is giving 100, if carbon monoxide is giving -80, minus 100 and minus 80. So which one is more negative? Minus 80 is more negative. So it should become more and more spontaneous. So that is why instead of taking carbon, so we are going to choose carbon monoxide here, because the reaction will become more spontaneous, and that's why we are choosing carbon monoxide as a better reducing agent than that of the carbon in the conversion of metal oxide to metal oxide for some metal oxides. So okay, not for all metal oxide we are choosing carbon monoxide, not for all metal oxide we are not choosing carbon. Okay, with the sum of metal oxide we are choosing, for some we are choosing carbon monoxide, for some metal oxide we are taking carbon as a reducing agent. If in another mechanism, like for example if it is converting zinc oxide, then we are choosing carbon monoxide. If another metal oxide, if lead oxide is there, if you want to convert lead oxide to lead, if carbon will give minus 60 and carbon monoxide will give minus 180, then which one is taken as a reducing agent for the conversion of lead oxide here? So we are choosing carbon because it has minus 60 value. It is more negative compared to minus 180. So that's why by considering the Gibbs free energy negative value, we are going to choose the corresponding C and CO. So how now question arises, how delta G value will become negative for the reaction, or what is the role of delta G? So it can be understood by taking the one of the important plot, so that is Ellingham diagram. Okay, by considering the many of the metal oxides, so we are going to analyze the Gibbs free energy variation with the temperature, so that is called as the Ellingham diagram. Okay, so it can be done by Ellingham diagram. So Ellingham diagram is the graphical representation of Gibbs free energy against the temperature. It gives the basis of choosing the reducing agent for the reduction of metal oxide to metal. So that is called as the Ellingham diagram. So this is the graphical, this is a plot or else a graphical representation. This is the graphical representation of delta G versus T. Okay, we have to write in sentence. I have no space, that is why delta G versus, I write delta G versus T. Okay, this provides the basis of choosing of reducing agent for the reduction of metal oxide. Okay, so that is called as the Ellingham diagram. It is using to choose which reducing agent is useful or which reducing is suitable for the reduction process. So see here, so I am taking the negative values of delta G, minus 100, minus 300, 200, 400, etc. So in temperature, in both the kelvins as well as degree centigrade, I am taking here. So in Kelvin, it should be starting from 273, and in degree centigrade we have to write 0 degree. Okay, and so on. So these are the metal oxides and their corresponding metals. Okay, so here zinc is converted into zinc oxide, carbon is converted into carbon dioxide, carbon is converted into carbon monoxide, Mg is converted into Mg oxide, aluminium is converted into aluminium oxide, etc. So many oxides we are able to convert. And now question is arises, what are these graphs or also lines? So if general reaction is taking place, then we are getting the straight lines. So see here, in case of aluminium, we don't have any transition or also any bending. So simply I am getting straight line. So it is nothing but general reactions. In seeing magnesium, so for the file converting my Mg into MgO, it should show some cut or else a bend. So firstly it should give straight line. So it is taking curve or also it is going to bend here, then again getting straight line. And here also in case of zinc also up to this much we are getting straight line, after that we are going to see the bending. So this bending or also curving is occurs in some of the reaction because of the phase transition. Okay, the phase transition is occurs in those metals, so that is why we are going to observe or form the curves or also bend in the reaction. So phase transition is nothing but the solids can be converted into liquid phase, and liquid will be converted into gaseous phase, or solid will be converted into the gaseous phase. So due to presence of these phase transitions, we are going to get the curves or also bends in the straight lines. So this is the reason behind why we are going to get the bends or also cuts in the some of the metal oxide presentation. So the major help of this Ellingham diagram is to choose the better reducing agent or also suitable reducing agent. So I told. So if I take an example as a aluminium, it should be combined to form oxygen Al2O3. So okay, so now we have to reduce this Al2O3 into Al. So I have to choose the reducing agent for the conversion of Al2O3 into Al. So again if I choose the magnesium oxides, so magnesium will be formed with the combine of oxygen, 2 MgO will form. Again I have to convert this MgO into Mg. Okay, so for the conversion of this metal oxide to metal, I am going to choose reducing agent by the help of this Ellingham diagram. Okay, so if I combine both the reactions by taking both aluminum and magnesium, if I write the reaction, see here. So aluminum with magnesium oxide, it will give the magnesium with formation of Al2O3. So this is the one kind of reaction. So for your understanding, I am writing the reactions. So it is not a balanced one. Simply I am writing. So next reaction is Al2O3. If I using Mg, then it should forms MgO with the elimination of Al. Okay, so here I am converting. So MgO into Mg, Al into Al2O3 means here I am using aluminium as a reducing agent. So in this reaction, Mg is acting as a reducing agent, means aluminium is undergoing oxidation and MgO is undergoing reduction. Okay, and same reaction I am right here, but here I am taking the Mg instead of aluminium. So aluminium trioxide will be converted into aluminium, magnesium will be converted into magnesium oxide. Here aluminium trioxide should undergoing reduction and Mg is undergoing the oxidation. So how we can choose whether aluminium is here oxidizing agent or else reducing agent, and for which in this reaction whether Mg is reducing agent or else any other aluminium is a reducing agent. So this will be answered by this Ellingham diagram. So see here. So firstly if I take on the above reaction, means Al plus MgO will give Mg with Al2O3. Okay, see here. So we have to choose the straight line which involves the aluminium trioxide as well as the Mg oxide. So see here. So this is the graph corresponding to this reaction. So this aluminium, when it combines with oxygen, it forms aluminium trioxide. Mg, when it combines with oxygen, it forms MgO. So these are the two different reactions, but I am going to choose aluminium as well as magnesium as a reducing agent whenever we are considering or whenever it should involve the magnesium oxide or also aluminium oxide. So for that question we have to consider this Ellingham straight line graphs or also graphs which are considering with respect to free energy as well as the temperature. So see here. So this will be formed and this is also formed. So when the intersection will be taken place in between these two graphs, aluminium with magnesium, these are correlate or else these are intersect at this point. So by taking this point, if it is considering as a, so we have to consider temperature. So it comes upon 1473 Kelvin. So 1473 Kelvin. So it shows the intersection at 1473 Kelvin. We can see the presence of intersection in between aluminum graph as well as the magnesium graph. So after this intersection, if we see the value of delta G, so because by the help of more negative delta G value, we are considering the suitable reducing reagent. So that is why if I see the graph of aluminium, see here, so it is giving straight line and it ends here. So the value of this graph means it comes around 1100. Okay, if I see the magnesium, the delta G value will be around minus 400. Okay, so for aluminium we have minus 1000, for Mg we have minus 500. So it shows that after 1473 Kelvin, aluminium will behaving as a good reducing agent because it is showing the lesser delta G value. So you have to mention temperature at 1473 Kelvin or after 1473 Kelvin. So delta G value will be negative, more negative for aluminium. So if I consider below 1473, so see here, so delta G value, so it should be, we have to consider it is about lesser than that of the aluminium. So that is why after 1473 Kelvin, aluminium is behaving as a good reducing agent. Before 1473 Kelvin or below 1473 Kelvin, the magnesium is behaving as the good reducing agent. Is it understood? So see here, simply by taking the more delta G negative value, we are choosing the reducing agents here. So that's why after 1473 Kelvin, aluminium is reducing agent. We have to choose aluminium as a reducing agent. Both are important, 1473 and aluminium. Okay, so before or else below 1473, so which one is acting as a reducing agent here? Mg, because delta G will be negative and it should be more spontaneous. So throughout the Ellingham diagram, you have to remember delta G must be negative. So we have to take more and more delta G negative value, because whenever delta G value is negative, it should be spontaneous one. So that is why we have to choose more delta G negative value. More and more delta G negative value for the consideration of reducing agent. So below 1473 Kelvin, Mg is acting as a reducing agent. So that is why if this kind of reaction is going on, so if the reaction is proceeds at 1473 Kelvin or also more than 1473 Kelvin, means about 1500 Kelvin, okay, at 1473 or as a 1500, so then we have to choose aluminium as a reducing agent. So now it is capable of do the reduction of magnesium oxide to Mg if below temperature is there. If temperature is about 1200 or else 1273 Kelvin, then we have to use magnesium as a reducing agent to convert aluminium trioxide into aluminium. Okay, in this way we have to choose the reducing agents for the corresponding reactions. So you have to remember this temperature and you have to remember the negative delta G value. So by this we can able to convert the different kinds of metal oxides into metals with the use of suitable reducing agents. So this is the one of the example. If we comes to carbon and carbon monoxide, so if I write zinc oxide conversion in presence of carbon, so zinc oxide is converted into zinc and it should be carbon will comes as a carbon monoxide. If I use carbon monoxide as a reducing agent, then I have zinc with the liberation of carbon monoxide. So I am taking same reactant, but I am choosing different reducing agent here. In the first reaction I am taking carbon, and in the second reaction I am taking carbon monoxide. Again question arises, which one is better reducing agent, or else which reducing agent we have to choose for this. So firstly you have to see the formation of zinc to zinc oxide. So see here, zinc to zinc oxide, and if I using carbon as a reducing agent, so this is the graph with respect to carbon is converted into carbon monoxide. So if I considering these two graphs, zinc and carbons, so the intersection is taken place at this point. If I consider the temperature, it meets about 1073 Kelvin. Okay, 1073 Kelvin. The intersection will be taken place in between zinc and carbon oxides, and this point. So if you see this point, the 1073 Kelvin. After 1073 Kelvin, the graph is extends here. So the graph is extends here, and it should has the lesser delta G value, means it should be negative one. And if I consider at this point, it should has higher delta G value. So that's why I told that after 1073 Kelvin, delta G value will become negative. Then we can able to choose carbon as a good reducing agent. Okay, below it not work. And if I consider carbon monoxide now, so whenever we are using carbon monoxide as a reducing agent, again I have to choose both these graphs. So carbon monoxide with respect to zinc. So here in the intersection will be, carbon monoxide with respect to carbon, the intersection will be occurs at this point. So if I taken the temperature acknowledgement, so it meets at 673 Kelvin. So see here. Okay, if I choose carbon monoxide, the delta G value will be more negative compared to that of the carbon. So as a result, at 1073 Kelvin, the carbon is undergoing reduction more spontaneously, and at 673 Kelvin, the carbon monoxide is undergoing reduction more spontaneously. So in this way, we are going to choose the reducing agent with the consideration of this Ellingham. Okay, at 1073 K, carbon is acting as a reducing agent, and at 1673 K, we have to choose carbon monoxide as a reducing agent. If this process, the conversion of zinc oxide to zinc, if it is done above the 1073 Kelvin, then we have to use carbon as a reducing agent here. If the reaction is carried out below 673 Kelvin, like 100 Kelvin temperature, then we have to use carbon monoxide as a reducing agents. So with respect to temperature, we have to choose the reducing agents. Okay, it can be determined by the Ellingham diagram. So Ellingham diagram is the graphical representation of delta G with respect to temperature, and it gives the basis of choice of reducing agent for the reduction of metal oxide into metal. Okay, so this is about the Ellingham diagram. So don't confuse. So you have to practice 2 or 3 times, then it will become easy. So you have to take only intersects, so and with respect to their temperatures. So after means above that temperature, the lower graph or else higher graph, which one is having the more delta G value, then it is taken as the good reducing agent. So below that one, so we have to choose the another metal atom as a reducing agent. So by having this idea, you can draw the diagrams, and you have to practice 2 or 3 times, then it will become easy. So you have to remember this temperature. Okay, so at 1073 Kelvin carbon, at 673 carbon monoxide, and another one is at 1473 Kelvin. So if temperature is more than 4073 Kelvin, aluminum is used. Below 4073 Kelvin, we have to use magnesium. Okay, so this is about the Ellingham diagram. And the last one is the Ellingham diagram is also has limitations, because so I told that if delta G value is negative, more and more negative, then by having that idea, we have to choose the reducing agents. Means it is completely thermodynamic one. Delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Okay, so what about the kinetic of that reaction? Means if reaction, so I write zinc oxide conversion into zinc with formation of carbon monoxide. I am using carbon as a reducing agent. Okay, so this is considered by the help of the Gibbs free energy. So what is the time which is required for the conversion of zinc oxide to zinc? Either it has to take 5 days, or else it should be completed in 1 hour, or else 1 year, 1 month, what? So we don't know the speed of reaction with the help of Ellingham diagram. So that's why it is the limitation of a Ellingham diagram. The first limitation of Ellingham diagram is it doesn't explain the kinetics of that reactions. So it doesn't explain about the kinetics. It only give idea about the thermodynamic principles. So that is why this is the first limitation. Another one is we are choosing depending upon their interception temperature. Means at the value of K we are going to identify the delta G value. But whenever it will occur, so when reactant and products are in equilibrium, it will be happen. But if they are in a solid state, then it will be not true. So that's why the equilibrium and the K will not satisfactorily explained by the Ellingham diagram. So that's why these are two limitations of the Ellingham diagram. So this is about the second method. So that is the process of extraction or isolation of metal from the concentrated ore. So one is by calcination and another one is the roasting method. We are going to oxidize the metal, and second method is the reduction of metal oxide to metal. So during reduction we have to choose reducing agent. So for the choosing of reducing agent we are going to use Ellingham diagram. So 1 to 1 concepts are correlated to each other. So that is why Ellingham diagram and reducing agent and reducing equations are correlated. So it has two limitations. One is it doesn't explain kinetics, and also it doesn't explain whenever equilibrium happens in between the solid state. Okay, so this is about the second method. So that is the extraction or isolation of a metal from the concentrated ore. So by this I will end the today's class. In next class we will continue further. Thank you all.